Hi, thank you so much for coming and joining me here on this video. Um, some of you have watched some of my previous videos and some of you are new. I'm gonna introduce myself all over again. My name is Damali Namali. I know it rhymes. So I'm the founder and lead counselor at Forerunner Counseling, which is located in Montclair, New Jersey. I've been in private practice since 2015, but I've been counseling people since 2007. So today I'm going to talk to you about tolerating bad behavior. So recently I went through a situation with a friend of mine and we had a misunderstanding. So I tried to express myself to my friend, but for some reason, she had a hard time understanding me or hearing what I was saying. I mean, it turned out to be that she actually ended up gaslighting me, meaning that whatever I was saying to her, she was telling me that that's not what happened. And as much as I wanted the friendship to continue, I also had to come to grips with the fact that it's very difficult to be in a relationship with a person who constantly makes you feel like what you're saying is not real, is not happening. So for some of you, when you engage in relationships, you find yourself consistently maybe betrayed, consistently taken advantage of, or sometimes you see the patterns where you're being gaslit. Um, Sometimes you find yourself in relationships where you feel powerless or you just don't say anything much. And you don't realize where those things are coming from. A lot of us, for example, we were raised in homes where our emotional needs were never fully met, or the caregivers that we had never attuned to our emotional needs. So we never learned how to self-regulate. And in our infancy or in our childhood or in our lack of understanding, what we started to do as a way to cope is that we sometimes brush things under the rug, or sometimes we rationed whatever that situation was, and we decided that we are the problem, so we just have to keep quiet, and the other person is always right. And some of the effects of behaving in such ways as children is that you never feel safe or you don't feel valued. So in your ignorance or in your immaturity, now I wouldn't say ignorance, immaturity, it's more immature because you're young and vulnerable, you're helpless. You need an adult to guide you. You need an adult to support you. You need an adult to help you, comfort you, validate you, soothe you until you regulate. But when you don't have those things, when you don't have caregivers that can give that to you, the neural architecture that you need in your nervous system to soothe you and to feel like you can cope is not fully developed. So now some of the coping mechanisms that we use in childhood could be numbing. Sometimes we get angry, but some people never had an outlet to feel angry. So they comfort that anger by eating and eating until they feel better. Some people avoid, some people worry, some people get anxious. There's so many things that we did or we still do as a way of coping with what we consider a very overwhelming scenario. But when you're tolerating bad behaviors in relationships, you feel like the best way to sustain the relationship, to maintain the relationship, is by not saying anything. And some of us come from homes where that's how parents dealt with conflict. I hear people a lot of times saying that, oh, we grew up in a home where nobody fought, our parents never fought, they never disagreed. And I think, yes, there is a healthy version of that where you don't have to be toxic in front of your children. But I think it's also fair to help your children learn that conflict is part of relationships, that parents, mom and dad don't always agree, but when they disagree, they are very respectful of each other. They don't call names, they don't become violent. It's very healthy for children to see that mirrored, because what you see in when it comes to relationships, we mirror our parents' relationships subconsciously. When you find, what did your parents do when they got angry? What did your mother do when she got upset? What did your father do when he got upset? You find that you do one of the two, or you even do both. And so when you go into relationships and you're doing that, you never become fully who you were. You never relate to people based upon who you are. You relate as a way to survive. In other words, if I disagree with you or you disagree with me, if my coping mechanism is what was like, we don't talk about it, that's going to happen in your present adult relationships. So the reason why I want to talk about this behavior of tolerating is because it's kind of, it could be very paradoxical, you know, and I hear sometimes, remember when Michelle Obama would say, when they go low, we go high. In other words, we don't stoop to their level. There is a healthy version of that. You do not lose your sense of self to become deranged like another person or behave in such out of character behavior. So I think that's where, to the most part, I think that's where she was coming from. That when people disrespect and behave in such ways that are not like you don't have to stoop to the same level. But what I'm talking about right now is that when you're tolerating, when someone, they say, calls you out of your name, somebody insults you in front of people, big gaslights you consistently, and you tolerate that. Now, in codependency, there is elements to that. And I don't want to go off topic and I don't want to go into different multi subjects, because in codependency, that what makes a person codependent, and they feel like I am powerless. There is nothing I can do. And so some people end up manipulating others to maintain control. Some people become dependent, overly dependent to maintain control of the situation. And some people just become victims of what other people do to them. And so when you relate to others and you condone the behaviors that you don't like that they do to you, I want you to look at it like you're also a part of that problem, because you're not a victim of it. You're engaging in a behavior that is allowing them to continue to do that to you. Now, it's easy to feel angry and to be stuck with, I want them to stop doing that. But you can't make people do things they don't want to do. You cannot control somebody else's actions or someone else's behavior. You can only control what is in your power. So if you don't use that, if you don't exercise the power within yourself to change the condition or the situation, you're part of the problem. I know it's like can sound harsh, because sometimes when I have people coming to me and they're like, you know, this person is doing this to me, this person is doing this to me. Many times I ask this question. I know that it's not easy for them to respond to it, but I ask the question, what is it about you that is allowing this to continue? Because you, in your mind, you're doing something, or in your relationship, you're doing something to allow them to believe that you are okay with it. You are okay with it. And even when we look at it from God's lens, you know, I was reading it the other time. I think it says in Isaiah that it's not that it does it says that God's hand is not too short that it cannot save, and it's not too far that it cannot redeem or save, something like that. But your iniquities have separated you from God. And I was thinking about it, and I say, like, okay, if God, who loves all of us unconditionally, right? When we overstep his boundaries and we sin against him, he withdraws his presence, or he withdraws his hand from us. What makes us think that as human beings, we are going to tolerate people mistreating us and we're going to be okay if the God who created us doesn't do that, you know? But he says that if you come back to me and you acknowledge your wrongdoing, and if you come to me in a broken and a contrite spirit, I'll give you a shot. I'll re-engage into the relationship. So I want you to think about the things that you have tolerated, the way your parents raised you, the way your caregivers told you. Do you value yourself, or do you don't see your value, that you put yourself in such harsh relationships and you end up getting scarred, you end up getting wounded, and you're just waiting for the other person to do differently to change? It's not going to necessarily happen like that. So I really do encourage you to examine your relationships, to examine your heart, examine yourself. I do actually have a course on my website. It's called Path to Purpose. And a lot of times, one of the reasons that I did that course was for the fact that many people come to me asking, what am I supposed to do in my life? What am I supposed to do in my life? For me personally, one of the realizations that I experienced when I was younger, in my early 20s, I got sick to the almost of dying. But when I was on that sick bed, the thing that stood out the most for me was like it did not necessarily matter whether I had friends, whether I had money. It did not matter what I looked like. But at the same time, I was very aware of how I had wasted my time and my life. Now, nobody told that to me. I just knew that I knew that I knew because I knew that I hadn't fully lived the life that I wanted to live as a person. And so some of you want to find meaning to life, you want to find purpose in life by losing yourself in relationships and associating with people, thinking that if I affiliate myself with someone who is successful or someone who has impacted other people's lives, that will by somehow translate into my own life where I have meaning in life. It does not necessarily work like that. And so as a result, my encouragement to you, especially for those of you who feel stuck, you don't feel like life has any meaning, you're in relationships that are not satisfying. And this is the thing, for those of you who are married, if you're in a marital relationship, enjoy being married. Do not, yes, roses have thorns. That's part of life. None of us is perfect. We all experience challenges in life, but you cannot be a victim in your relationship, especially marital relationship. You gotta do what you have to do to live to the fullest, to live to be joyful, to be happy, to find meaning, that you're not just tolerating what you don't like, but you're doing something about it. You're not gonna change your spouse, but you can do something within your own self that it doesn't, you're not stuck. And so going back to that scripture that if we sin against God, he withdraws himself from us. What makes us think that people can do us wrong and we will be okay? We won't be okay. We are going to resent them. We're going to hold on to resentment. We're going to hold on to anger. We're going to hold on to all these other things that are not healthy. And we're going to play victim, thinking that there is nothing we can do. So, and when you start to think about the things you've tolerated it, I encourage you to allow yourself to be upset about it so that you can do something about it. Because if you think of it through the lens of the more you're tolerating it, you're also condoning it. You're condoning the behavior. You should be angry enough to do something about it. And if things that you're dealing with are because of what parents did when you were little, you can process your relationships with your parents. And if you need more information about these things, these are the things that I'm passionate about, because I decided when I was younger that I'm going to choose to live a meaningful life, to live a life of purpose, that when I die, I have no regrets. And you cannot be a victim because of what others have done and you feel stuck. You have a responsibility to do what is in your power, to keep growing, to keep changing, to keep evolving, to relate to people who value you, to relate to people who respect you, people who will treat you like you're a human being, as opposed to you're lucky that they are in your life because you don't see any value. So if this is something that has spoken to you in some way, please go to my website. You could schedule a free consultation and I can see how I can meet with you, how I can help you on your journey. This is a continuous journey, lifelong journey. You're changed day by day. The person that you are now is not going to be the person you'll be tomorrow or two years from today. And I hope it's for the good, that you're changing for the good as opposed to changing for the worst. So check me out on forerunnercounseling.com. I have a skills group on my website for those of you who have gone through trauma and attachment wounding that need support and skills. You can join me there. We meet every Monday at 8 p.m. We have a Spanish group and an English version. Go to my website for details, and I thank you so much for watching it. You can share, you can like, you can subscribe, and I will see you on my website, or I can see you in my next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.